This morning's podcast is all about the flag, which is often used when we're training horses. We're going to cover why you might use it, how you can use it effectively, and what some of the problems might be. So your horses might be reacting to the flag in a negative way and how you can get around that. So it's quite a practical session, and also just covering a little bit of the philosophy behind using a flag effectively and not detrimentally. Hello, welcome to Mark Langley's Horsemanship podcast, a podcast helping people to understand their horses better, to provide solutions in a calm, connected way. I'm Jenny Langley.
And I'm Mark Langley.
So, Mark, we'll start off with just tuning in to some of your knowledge. When you first started training horses professionally for people, when you started running your horsemanship clinics, I know you didn't teach using the flag. Can you just explain why?
Yeah, so when I used to, train and educate and start horses, I used a flag, and I used to use it for some of the handling and stuff like that. But as my awareness got stronger of the negative effects of the flag, even in my own training, I was, using it less as a pushing tool to move horses around, like similar to like drafting cattle. And in my clinics, I didn't teach people with the flag. The reason being is I saw too many people buying flags, all in the name of horsemanship and using them, and they used them, mainly constantly as kind of a driving, desensitizing tool. And I saw so many negative effects from, using the flag. I thought, well, if I'm going to have all these people coming to me learning and going away with certain tools, maybe until I understood the flag myself and how to use it very effectively without causing a negative impact in horses, then there's no point teaching it to people or handing them a tool if I can't show them exactly or explain to them exactly how not to ruin a horse with a flag. So it's almost like it's like a Jedi Knight with a lightsaber. It's a powerful force. A flag can offer a lot of clarity, but it can be weaponized very easily. And unfortunately, I've seen that happen too many times. And I don't want people to misinterpret something. So sometimes just not using it and teaching with it and giving it to people was a better option than, teaching with it and then people going home and misinterpreting it or using it wrong. So yeah, that's why I probably tended not to use it in my clinics and training other people, because I just didn't want them all going home with flags and not really taking on the idea properly of how to use it.
Okay, so it's one of those things that can go two ways. It can cause negative response and a positive sort of response, and you've got to be really careful how you use it. We'll go into sort of some of the areas of the technical problems that you get with the flags and how you can avoid those in a moment. But can you just explain some of the history behind the flags? Why would you use it in the first place? What's the history behind trainers?
I believe this is my interpretation, and someone out there listening might go, well, actually, I know a bit more history here but in Australia, we tended to use a bit of polypipe, drafting cattle and that sort of thing as an extension of your arm when you're moving cattle in yards and drafting and stuff like that. And a flag, I believe, for a fair while was a fairly common tool. I think used in drafting livestock in the yards, cattle mainly. And I think it sort of evolved into the sort of horsemanship, and I believe it came more from America, and it came from, if you look at the lineage from the back to Tom Dorrance and Ray Hunt and some of those horse people that sort of become quite influential in the horsemanship years ago, who started, who tended to sort of start the idea of a horsemanship movement. That you saw them using flags, and I guess that's slowly sort of, spilled out everywhere as the information spread across the world. I think the use of the flag become more common around horses and that sort of thing. And then unfortunately, it become a little bit too rife, and too many people without the ability to use it correctly had a flag, and I get a lot of damaged horses at clinics. And I don't think the message of Tom Dorrance was to, use horsemanship to just control and create obedience in horses. It was to empower and soften horses, make them feel good about training. And unfortunately, people using flags and the name of horsemanship, I think, sometimes have done quite a bit of damage to their horses that they need good horsemanship to fix it.
Okay, and so can you give us a few tips on just really simple things of how you could use a flag quite effectively in a good way for training?
Yeah. Well, the thing about a flag, it has the power. It's quite visual, so you can distract a horse quite effectively with it. And if you whoosh it or pop it in a certain way, it also has quite a strong noise effect. So, and you can use the flag as a boundary. You can place your arm out and create a boundary out in front of a horse or something to sort of block an avenue or something like that. But the biggest thing is the amount of clarity it offers and the awareness you can create quite effectively. The other really benefit of a flag, I find, is I can stand really still, really calm, and do something quite effective with a flag to get awareness. But I've stayed nice and calm and neutral in myself. So that's where I find it really handy, is I don't have to jump up and down like a crazy person to get, especially those horses that have been flooded with white noise. They don't really notice anything that you do, and then you don't want to be jumping up and down crazy all the time trying to get your horse's attention or something like that. So by doing something very quick and effective with a flag, you can gain their attention very quickly. There's a saying I used to have. But a flag is not there. We don't use a flag to get a horse to move away from a flag. We use the flag to encourage them to move towards their thoughts. And I think that's where people, there's two crossroads, I think, and a common thing that you see people doing is they're getting the horse to move away from a flag, and it's so easy to fall in the trap of using the flag as a crutch just to move the horse around, because it's such a visual thing and you can just push them around really easy, get them moving and stuff like that. But that overuse of that technique ends up people falling into the trap of the revolving door of drive and draw, where they're driving the horse out with the flag, and then the horses move away from pressure, looking for where the pressure's coming from. Whereas when you use a flag effectively, you sort of gain a horse's attention, so you can direct their thoughts. You can even direct their thoughts away from the flag, but you have to be very specific, and you have to have quite a bit of feel when you use it correctly in that context. But if you go down the easy way, you'll get easy, quick responses, but long-term negative effect far outweighs taking a bit more time and being much more thoughtful about the flag.
I loved what you said earlier about just making sure that the horse was you were gaining its thoughts, not pushing its thoughts away using the flag. That's fundamentally the big sort of line, isn't it? That you don't cross that.
Well, you can make sure you don't cross that. Directing their thoughts away. Yeah, you like say for instance, like you're directing their thoughts away. So say for instance, I come across a horse that's been driven with a flag, and it's always looking for where the flag is, and it's looking at the pressure, where the pressure's coming from. Those horses, I'll use the flag and I'll stay there, and I won't let them just move away from the flag. I'll wait and I'll use the flag until they actually look away and search. And then all of a sudden they breathe and feel better, because the flag becomes an opportunity, whereas previously it was a threat. Ideally we want them to just look through the feel of a rope and go over there. But for the horses that have been over-focused on a flag, then I have to use that tool of trauma to change the way they feel about it, so people can still have a flag around them and not have them constantly going, oh no, there's a flag, that person's got a flag, they're going to chase me. So but yeah, it's gaining their awareness so you can direct their thoughts, not just move them because they're dull. So
you become the alpha one. Okay. All right. I want to explore some of the areas that people are struggling to use the flag. So these are people who are following your techniques and philosophy, and they have different horses who react in different ways to the flag unsuccessfully. And I just want to sort of use your knowledge just to guide, offer some help so that they can go through, get beyond what the stage that they're at. And I think that will also just help unravel a little bit more detail about how the flag works effectively for everyone listening as well. So I've got Deborah in New Zealand, who has a 4-year-old gypsy cob who she's just bought. And when she's describing him, one of the sort of problems that she's realizing is that he was started under saddle as a 3-year-old using flag pressure, driving, facing up. And now she's finding that he doesn't respect the bubble. It takes a lot of pressure to move him out of his space, and then he tries to bite. So can you just sort of shed some light on that, why those sorts of things all put together in the same sentence can sort of be a red flag for some quite serious problems that she's now finding? Can you just explain that, why their negative connotation is there?
Yeah, well, firstly, I think the thing we've got to think about, and I say this to everybody when they've got a young horse that they've bred themselves and they're going to get started, is gypsy cobs. You know, you get different variations of them, but there is quite a lot of gypsies can be quite calm. You know, just one of those cold blood horses that sometimes doesn't always present a lot of desire and things like that. And I feel sorry for those horses quite a bit. You know, we all feel sorry for the Arab that's running around, you know, head up in the air, really frightened. But the cold blood horses that are quite calm and quite, you know, they can feel dull and sometimes not aware and things like that. And those horses can sort of internalize quite a bit though, which is the dangerous thing. But when they get sent to trainers, because they mightn't have that natural free flowing energy that a thoroughbred or Arab might have, if the trainer uses a flag to push them, they're the ones to get driven harder. So the person gets bigger and drives them harder to get them to start to get frightened enough to move and get forward impulsion. So once they finish their training, because they didn't have that natural flow and it was forced into them by driving pressure, they end up more traumatized and with more, you know, like with this one, it sounds like anger issues, you know, all these other things coming out because people had to bully them more to get a response. So it's the poor cold bloods without a lot of motivation that end up sort of, you know, more hard done by in the long run because it took more pressure to get them going. So, and that's what sounds like what's happened. The horse has been pushed. And the funny thing, and this is the kind of, it's kind of like a reverse thing that happens. You pick up your energy, you push into your horse, you get it to go, and then you wonder later on why the horse is pushy. And it's like monkey see, monkey do. And those
Yes, can I interrupt you there?
Yeah.
Because Deborah has said that his temperament is good, but he doesn't respect the bubble. It takes a lot of pressure to move him out of her space. And then he tries to bite. He likes to take hold of and chew on the lead rope. So these are some of the issues that she's having with him. It's really difficult to get him to follow a feel. So yeah, continue, because I just wanted to just put that one in so people could see the whole picture.
Yeah. So basically, maybe the trainer, you know, it's always the trainer or the person who takes on the horse who's the so-called professional that makes that horse kind of nervous and respectful, and the horse wouldn't have done it possibly with the trainer. But when the owner gets the horse back and doesn't have that higher level of, I guess, the trainer, usually sometimes they're more scared of the trainer. So when they go back to the owner, because the trainer's had such a fair bit of pressure to motivate that horse, it's taken a lot of pressure to motivate it. Then the kind of the medium temperamented owner who's probably a bit softer, not as maybe firm and clear in certain areas, they don't present the same pressure. So because it took so much pressure to motivate the horse in the first place, it kind of happens that the person tries to put a lot of pressure on, but the horse remembers what a lot of pressure was, and then they realise that, oh well, I can cope with that pressure now, and they become more pushy because of the extra pressure to motivate them. When the medium owner gets the horse, they notice that, and then they just become pushy, and that all that push that was pushed onto the horse comes back to the person, and that lack of motivation, because the horse never actually really followed a soft feel. It just got bullied. And if you're not the scary bully, well all that negative effect of bullying comes back to you. So and because the sourness, the angriness in the horse, it comes from the bad feeling of not going towards its thoughts, not having a say in the situation, just getting pushed around like a horse has been picked on in a herd, go away, go away, go away sort of thing. So the old saying, if you push your horse away, they will soon know where you want them. It really comes back and nips us in the butt, because the horse feels like it was pushed down the pecking order. So that feeling that gypsy's got around you is because of that sort of negative herd psychology effect of being pushed down the pecking order sort of thing. And any horses that I've seen in a herd that are at the bottom of the pecking order, they can be quite troubled, angry horses around people, and they're usually the ones that sometimes, when a new horse comes into a herd, they can look like the worst one to the new horse. So that's what's happening to that horse, and that's why they lose that soft desire to search and that friendliness. So it all disappears.
And that's all from that pushing, bullying effect of the combination of driving and then using the facing up and the flag pressure and using the wrong way. Okay, that's starting to make sense. So the pushing away makes them sort of in return, when they're a little bit more confident, or perhaps you're a little bit less confident, they'll push on you. So how does she reverse that then, using the flag to get his attention and to sort of raise awareness, but not in a negative way?
Well, I probably wouldn't use the flag. It's a hard one without being right there with you with the horse, but like something I would do, you can still get very big to create a boundary, but don't try and move your energy into your horse and shift the horse like it was taught when it was trained, because if you're not the scary bully, the horse is just going to see, lift your energy and say, are you challenging me? Do you want to fight? And so with those sort of horses that have got to that stage, I'm very calm with my energy, very clear, and I tend to do a lot with the lead rope. I sort of say, I've had some horses that are so sensitive to your direction of your thoughts and your energy. They can get very angry very quickly. So those horses, I just say, well, just follow the lead rope. Then I'm out of the picture. So I might do a leading lesson, and so say if for instance, you might want to get your horse on a circle. I'd say your horse is not ready to go on a circle because it still braces in a lead rope. So I'd teach it to lead on a 3 or 4 meter rope where I'm a long way away from it, and I'll get it to trot up at a distance. But if it comes too close to me, I might get big and say, hey, no closer. And keep the horse at a longer distance until it's floating on that lead rope and just following the lead and realizing that it's not about me, it's about the lead rope. Well, not about the owner, it's about the lead rope, the person. Sorry, not the person, it's the lead rope that the horse has to listen to. So, and then you just say, well, this is going to be all about leading. Don't worry about me. And I know that sounds a bit sort of funny when you say, oh, horsemanship's about our connection and our relationship with our horse and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, well, no, it is partly about that, but it's about that, the horse's relationship with the guiding pressure that comes through the feel of a lead rope or a rein. And if you can sort of isolate that, then the horse starts to recognize, okay, this is not personal. I've just got to follow the lead rope and not worry about the person so much. So any horse that has had negative effects of driving pressure, I just make it simple, like follow a lead rope, and keep my energy calm. If I have to firm up in lead rope, I will. If I have to bang a flag sometimes to create awareness, if they don't see me, I will. But I'm not going to jump up and down and move my energy around and try and, be the trainer who pushed the horse. I'm just going to say, it's all between you and the lead rope. Leave me out of it. Okay. And then very quickly, those horses start to recognize that it's a leading lesson, not some human sort of pushy-pulley lesson where we're kind of trying to manipulate them. And any horse that's an angry horse, I go back to that approach. I don't try and be the scary alpha on a defensive horse that's been terrified in the past, because I don't want to tap into that emotion. I just want to tap into an emotion which is, I'm searching, I'm going towards my thoughts. This person's a nice person to be around. They feed me. They're calm. They're grounded. They're not bullying me. I've just got to follow the lead rope.
We're going to move on to the next question from Zenj from Hungary. And he's got a question about getting his horse's attention or how to move its focus when you have a horse that doesn't care about the flag or clapping all bags or even big energy bursts. What he's finding is his horse is just standing there with a totally empty stare. And he's wondering, what would you do other than flapping the flag to get big? He has tried using the lead rope to take away his over-focused frozen mind from something, but he's finding that the following the feel is just still not available. So he's having a hard time to teach follow the feel without the flag. And he's just wondering if you've got any tips on horses like that.
Yeah, that horse, I think, when I was reading the question myself, really presents as a really shut down horse that just zones out to everything, and I think there's the eye in that horse, through a bit of the explanation I noticed, was a very dull, dead eye that's just kind of, just a turtle inside a shell sort of thing. So those horses are particularly hard because the way I explain it to everybody is, imagine being an introvert that had to live in a nightclub that's going 24 hours a day, just pumping around you all the time, people doof-doofing all the time, all around you all the time. All of a sudden, you realise that you're just sitting in a corner reading a book, and then you walk to the toilet when you need the toilet, and you just walk through the sea of people, and almost like they're not even there. So basically, everything disappears, and you're just in this world of white noise around you that doesn't really, that you don't really pay attention to. And that's what I see in a lot of horses that are really shut out. They're shutting out everything, and some horses have shut out quite a lot of noise. So basically, you got to get over and above that noise for a small moment until they kind of go, "What was that?" or whatever it was. And that noise could be the feel of a lead rope. It could be a pop of a flag. I'll explain a story about a horse that I met in America when I did my first clinics over there, and it might give you some context on it. But it took me 3 days of just doing lessons with that horse before the eyes blinked, the horse stood up, and it softened, and then it got good posture and awareness. And then when the owner rode it, because she had to bang it around in spurs all the time because it had just stopped. It just was just a dead sort of horse. And but when she had her ride on it, which was the last lesson of the clinic, she gave it one squeeze, and it went for 20 minutes without needing another one, just walking around, processing everything, and being quite open. But for the people there, it was an exorcism. That's almost what it was. It felt like you're doing an exorcism on the horse, because you're trying to tap in to the system again, and get a pulse happening again, like get the receptors firing, and the sensors opening up again, because they just close up over years and years, and it's just like there's like a wall around the horses. So what you're saying about popping the flag and it's not effective, this is not effective. Well, nothing I did was effective on that horse. I'd shake a flag, but it'd been so desensitized with the flag that I couldn't nearly pop it hard enough to get a response out of the horse. Sometimes I've gone to sort of sneaking up and just putting the flag in funny little spots that sort of suddenly is random, and see if I can get a pulse out of the horse. Like I might just put it above its ears and give it a quick shake, or and that might just get a response. But what I did with this particular horse, and I'll give you a bit of a context. I can't give you the exact answer and say do this, because I had to go through a bunch of different ideas to get into the horse. Now, some people will say, if you just wait and work on connection and eventually let that horse come out, that you might get a horse that starts to come out and open up, and that can happen over a long time. But what happens is, under work pressure, if you don't get them opened up under pressure, as in, riding pressures, or traveling on, getting onto a horse float or whatever, then all of a sudden that pressure becomes a trigger to close down again. So all that soft connection work that you've done in the paddock and listening to them and stuff can sometimes go out the window when we add pressure, because then the horse, it's like a trigger to go back into their shell. So I believe you have to have a two-way approach. Is be a thoughtful person that waits on them a little bit and doesn't just flood. They would have got flooded, not listened to when they were young, and there were certain times when they were getting caught that the person didn't worry about how they felt, so the horse ends up bottling up and shutting down. So all that stuff in the long term has to be worked on. But to get this horse out of its shell and get a response to pressure, I went through a series of things. I tried the flag for a little bit. I don't think the flag was as effective as I thought it might be or wanted it to be. So I said, well, I'm not going to use the flag. I put a belly rope on the horse. Belly ropes are an interesting one. And I went back, not right to the flank, but a bit halfway up the belly, and I'd give it a shock with the belly rope. And then it'd go, I'm not used to that. That's different. And then you'd see a bit of a response. So I did a little bit of belly rope leading, which was a kind of a completely different area to contact that horse that it wasn't used to. Got a medium response out of that, where I started to see a bit of a change starting to happen. But then the horse still didn't have perpetual motion and flow. So I went to some long reining, and long reining, was a bit of a struggle for this horse, because in the long reins and the soft halter, I could put it in binds and put it a little bit kind of in different positions, and those positions made it uncomfortable, a bit unsure, and then it had to start to find its way, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, I'm not used to that. So a combination of the belly roping and the long reining for this particular horse, suddenly, after a back up in the long rein, then all of a sudden, bing, bing, the airways opened up, the eyes opened up, the horse stood up and went, oh, I'm alive. Once it was alive, it stayed alive. So then when we worked it, it just floated. It just floated and searched and sniffed the ground and, processed the environment it was in. But I pretty well made it reasonably uncomfortable enough to go, I need to do something. I don't know what to do. And just a little bit of more information on that horse. That particular horse, the owner who had the horse, her friend told me that just before this owner got the horse, another person was riding the horse. And I can't remember if it was a jump or an obstacle, but it went over. And I think I might have mentioned this horse on a podcast sometime before, but it went over an obstacle and tripped. And then because it tripped with the rider on top of it and went down to, or just fell down onto the ground, it just stayed there and just started eating grass. It just eating the grass beside it. Didn't even want to get up. Didn't even get stressed enough to go, well, what happened? I better get up and fix this. It just ate grass and didn't even try to do anything about it. And so that's how dull it was. But the interesting thing is that horse would hook on to another horse quietly, and they wouldn't know which horse was really hooking on to, because it was so dull. But in its mind, it had this other horse in its mind. And if that horse left the arena, then all of a sudden it'd just go into this panicky, hot, and the owner couldn't help it at all. So she spent most of the time with this horse not being able to motivate it. Then every now and again it'd just go boom and come out of its shell. But by opening it up, it came out of its shell and was telling the owner exactly where it wanted to be, what horse it was probably interested in, the gate that was closest to, the area of the arena that was frightened of. So she could work on that in real time, not have this delayed reaction when a horse suddenly disappears out of sight. So, yeah, but if you can sort of take that on board, I don't have any one thing, but you have to sort of, tap into that horse somehow. And as I say, it could be through some leading techniques, through a quick bump on the lead to just say that they didn't expect. But you're not doing it and you're not weaponizing these things. You're just trying to get over and above all the white noise that's been hammered on them in their life.
And trigger some kind of response. Okay, so that's an unreactive, possibly shut down, internalizing horse. I want to go to a horse that is pushy and reactive to the flag. This is a horse that's we've been told about from Janice from Australia. She's been watching the training videos. She's been getting her horse to stay out of her space because he is a little bit pushy. He wants to be quite close to her. Now, he had been shut down, and it took her a long time to build a trusting relationship with him. So this is alluding to sort of the comments you were making a short moment ago. She's got a really good relationship with him now. She doesn't want to change that, but she'd like him to learn to do a stop, a distance from her when she's leading him. So he tends to be quite pushy. He can be on top of her a little bit. Now, here's the catch. She doesn't want to use the flag. She's uncomfortable using it because he can get very angry and aggressive towards it. So she's sort of gone to sticking her arm out in front of a horse as a bit of a visual, which he then literally physically walks into and then sort of gets a bit of a shock and resets himself. Do you have any suggestions for her and any comments about that particular situation?
Okay. Now, I'm comfortable if you don't want to use the flag. That's fine. But if he's defensive when you've got something he's unsure about in your hand, I always say something has to be done to fix it. You can't just avoid it because something else could represent that flag one day. And also, if a horse gets defensive to scary things, which is the flag, and they get angry and want to attack it, they feel that they're not allowed to do anything about it, so they will defend themselves against it. So if the horse has that personality to feel, I feel threatened and I'm going to attack that, you have to change that somehow. Like, you can't leave that in there and just say, okay, well, I'm going to do something else about personal space, and still have that emotion in a horse. It could potentially be something else that's not a flag that it gets angry at and defensive over. So apart from fixing the personal space, which you want to work on, you still have to fix the ability to process things the horse doesn't understand without going to defensive mode. It has to be sorted out. So you can't just leave it there. So if I had that horse at the clinic, I would probably use the flag. I would probably look for that defensive nature, and I would have the horse at a distance, and I would use the flag enough until the horse steps back, and then the flag would just disappear and I'd stand quietly. I wouldn't be attacking it with my body language and stuff, and I would repeat that until I can move the flag and the horse goes, oh, well, I can just move backwards. I don't have to get angry. Because once a horse can move away from a danger or a threat, and the threat doesn't keep hammering them and hounding them and chasing them like a saber-toothed tiger or something, the horse will go, I was just bothered by it, but it's not attacking me. It's just a shock, and I didn't know how to deal with it, so I was going to attack it. But when I just stepped away from it or back from it, back is more important than maybe running out on a circle. Because they take a step back from that, they processed it, they did something about it, and then they go, oh, nothing happened, and it's not chasing me. Oh, well, now I can deal with scary things. Instead of getting angry with what I don't understand, I'll just move away from it and go over there or something. So then you turn the way they think about it into I'll just remove myself a little bit from that, than get angry, worried, and defensive. And then what that does is that's what helps their proprioception. Their ability to use proprioception properly, as in they see something, they have a feeling, and then they just move accordingly. Just like a horse flicks a fly off that lands on it, that flies right there, it flicks it off, and then another one lands and it flicks it off with its little flicker of its skin. And it's the same with scary objects. Oh, there's a scary object. There's a snake. I'm just going to step away from that snake. I'm not just going to bolt 5 kilometers away just because I saw a snake. Or I'm not going to attack the snake and get bitten. I'm just going to move over here and job done. Okay. So you have to put that in your horse. You have to think about that, whether you feel like you're comfortable to do it or not. Somehow you need to change that defensiveness. if you don't want to do it straight away when you're just working on personal space, that's fine. But the ability for a horse to back up smoothly is what allows them to find personal space. So if they don't have a very good backup visually from things in front of them, and they get defensive and go, oh, I can't back up, I'm going to stiffen up my hindquarter and push forward, then they don't have the ability to back away from you in a hurry when you have to go, holy cow, there's a snake there and I'm just got to backpedal a little bit. And they go, okay, I'm going to backpedal with you. If they can't backpedal with you and you backpedal, they're going to smash into you. Okay. So yeah, you have to loosen the idea of backing up in them somehow visually. But working on personal space for horses that get a bit confused and you don't want to always be like a visual liberty thing, I use a rope and a long rope. So I might put them in an arena where there's not a lot of desire that they want to run across a paddock or something like that. And I'll put them out on the end of a long rope. And if they start to move into me, I'll put a bump in the rope and say, it's like hot or colder. It gets a bit hotter when they get closer. They'll feel a bump in the rope. And then when they stop, the rope will go quiet. And then they realize, I'm controlling the pressure. So the horse starts to control the pressure on their head. So if they start to walk into you, to come up to you, you create a feel in that rope that they go, I don't really want to keep walking into that. So I'm going to stop and step back a little bit. And then I teach them to walk with me at a distance or walk with the rope at a distance. So it might be a 4 meters of rope and they stay at 4 meters. If they step any closer, I say, no, not available. And then I use the rope, and the rope has to have a clear feel in it. So it pulls a little on them. The knot lifts, it pulls a little on them to get them to step forward. And then when that knot releases and starts to hang, the horse knows to stop. So they know that they're listening to the lead rope, not just predicting where you're going and I should follow you and go to you. So they start to go, I follow the feel of the lead rope. And by doing that every day for a little while, they'll get used to being out of your space and not feeling all needy to be in there. And the best thing about, because you've worked on connection, by the sounds of it, you've done a good job of changing that horse into a better, more trusting horse of you and have a better connection. But you can't let connection with you be a coping mechanism for the horse. So some horses connect to their owner and get really close and follow them so they can avoid scary environments, and they hide away and just follow the owner, say, oh, you'll make it right for me. Whereas if you get them to walk at 4 meters away from you, they not only have to process you, the lead rope, but it gives them enough room that they have to process the environment that they're in, not just let you not just connect with you and just avoid it and kind of hide away as they follow you. So it's essential for good quality connection and empowering the horse that they are leading at a distance away from you. So they are going through that environment, processing it themselves, but still following where you went. So that's why leading at a distance is a really good lesson for all horses that are insecure and relying on connection to sort of be their little sort of dummy sort of thing. So yeah, if you can get that on the rope, that's good. But as I said at the start, you really have to, change that defensive mechanism in the horse.
Last question for today, Mark, is from Adele from the UK. Now, she's been using the flag a little bit with her horse as well, and has got to a situation where she doesn't feel like it's going to be appropriate. So I wanted to include her question now in this session. She says her horse has sort of got a bit of an ADD type brain. You've seen a video of him before, and you said that he seems to lack awareness of people and he sees people as white noise. So she's been getting a lot louder about her personal space. He's been doing really well, making space for her. And he's now sort of aware of where she is. But she's finding that sometimes on some days he is mentally bouncing everywhere. For example, he will bite the head collar when she puts it on him and when she pulls his rug down. Tends to do it in the stable in the morning before she turns him out. And she's finding that at this point that the flag isn't very effective. He ignores it. And then so she takes him out of the stable for a short walk. She'll ask him questions by starting and stopping. He'll stand a lot calmer. But she's wondering how she can consistently calm his ADD brain and help his biting reaction to the head collar. She's actually quite thrilled as well because he no longer nips her. So, under your guidance, she's making this wonderful progress. but she just needs to go that little bit further. Any comments on this sort of erratic, very fast, twitchy sort of behavior that he's showing first thing in the morning?
I'll answer it as in horses that I've had at clinics. It's hard for you, and it's hard for a lot of people to give a horse what a horse needs. Over here, our place, we've got enough ground that horses run in herds, and they're happy in the night, they're happy in the day, sort of thing, when they've got their own time. So they don't have that cooped up, coming out of a stable, out into the world, everyday environment that causes that sensory overload. And then also there could be the stress of being cooped up overnight that's building up, the worry cup's building all the time. And then the horse comes out and it's kind of like an unload. It's almost like if anyone's had kids that go to school, and for some sensory kids, that's a long time with a lot of stuff going on at school, and they get, there's a whole bunch of things. There's all the dynamics of other kids, and then there's the learning and the sitting down at a desk for so long, and when they come home, they kind of have a tantrum because of that build up of the whole day at school. And then if you see those kids on holidays, they become happy, balanced sort of kids, because they're not going to school for how many hours a day and having to tolerate all that and then come home and unload. I'm not saying stop sending your kids to school. I'm just saying it's just something that I'm sure a lot of parents have dealt with. And I think with horses, it's the same thing. They like a horse, like the bottom of the pecking order horse that has all these hours of getting picked on by other horses because it's just not right for that herd or whatever the reason. It comes and presents to a person like the kid coming home having a tantrum, all that building of anxiety. So that's kind of, I think, what's happening in the stable. That's the reason. And I can't help you with an educational answer to fix that part of it. All I can help you do is go, well, what can you do in that horse's life, whether it's stables with a certain buddy, whatever, and change something in its life that doesn't have that lock up, let out, sort of thing happening, so it feels a little bit better through the night. And that will be part of the process, because we've got to look at a holistic way, not just pop a flag, get the horse's awareness, show it a certain level of responsibility. We have to sort of recognize what's troubling the horse and see if we can sort of alter that as well. So I'd really look at how you can alter that. Is there ways you can alter that horse's, nighttime, daytime life, just to make it a little less of a build up of stress? But with a horse like that, in the educational side of it, I'd say I had a horse at a clinic just a while ago, and it had an ADD sort of brain, and it was a young horse. It wasn't sort of it wasn't like the ADD racehorse that's been cooked. It was young and very impulsive, very curious. So curious is good, but curious with anxiety becomes very impulsive. ADD, can't stand still. What's that? Got to get there. Who's, what? Everything going on all the time. And I said to the owner, I said, listen, all I'm going to work on and all I want you to work on is a work mindset. Don't educate the horse and start it under saddle until it has a work mindset, because it will be a horse that's very easy to cook and constantly be battling with year after year. So the old saying, I don't know if it's an old saying, it's a saying I say anyway, but it's do a little and expect a lot. Don't do a lot and expect a little. Okay. Very, very important saying for these type of horses. So what we did with this horse was taught it how to stand with the lead rope, keep its thoughts present, and then take one step and stand. And I think we did that just about for the whole clinic, except we had another few takes on it. And it was to teach this horse that you can't just have an impulsive brain, that you do what you think as you think at every single moment. until you could see the processing speed of the horse slow down and the horse started to breathe and center and say, oh, this is all I have to do, is it? Oh, well, this is easy. We're all resting here. The herd's resting here. And if you work on that, and I've seen people work on this every day for a little while, and just when they're with their horses, work on this until the horse takes over that responsibility and starts to become part of them, so that it becomes their new neuro pathway. That's the way I am. And you can achieve it, but if you teach them how to do this and teach them how to accept that and teach them how to go out in a circle while they're still bouncing around in their mind, then you'll be constantly micromanaging them and their ADD and bouncy thoughts all the time. So Ranger's Apprentice, don't practice till you get it right, practice till you don't get it wrong. And a horse just at this clinic that I've just finished yesterday, I said the same thing. You should be able to walk with that horse just with you and not have to do anything to manage it. It should manage itself. Don't go too far until you can walk across the paddock and not have to turn around and manage your horse. And focus on that one lesson until the horse is doing it for you and you're not looking over your shoulder. The whole reason we teach somebody something is so we don't have to manage them all the time. That's why people do degrees. That's why people do apprenticeships, so they can do the job without the boss coming in and saying, oh, you did that wrong. Okay. So simplify the lesson of being present and centered, and do that until you don't have to manage it, and then start to show your horse other things and do other things with it. You have to go back to some bare bone basics with certain horses and get them so they do it for you, not you're doing it for them.
That was amazing, Mark. We'll leave it there for today. That was a huge amount of information that you've been able to provide some quite in-depth answers to those questions. So thank you very much. Thanks to all of our members for sending those questions through. It's really, really great to get them from you every week. We will talk to you again. We'll be back next week.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jenny.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please like it, share it, or send us a comment. It all helps in reaching new ears and helping more horses. And if making a change in your horse appeals to you, Mark offers his direct support and a diverse learning platform. Head to marklangley.com.au and grab your 7-day free trial.